looking for love, get away. You
Why don't you perform it?
Because the whole song, I'm going to be performing the entire.
Like 500 corrections to a particular image, it fucks
It's
up.
all-
It doesn't know where you are.
it's layered.
Haven't you noticed that it's they always refer to it being one eye? It's the one eye thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't you know? Don't you see when I go like this? It's two eyes. It's different.
Yeah, I understand.
Don't forget because my name is Desiri, like
I
two
know.
eyes open.
And my name is Luminati with the E.
Oh, well, that's good.
Get it?
And see,
There you
what
go.
happens, it stays
E like.
Okay, so I did a couple camera tests. I think it's pretty good. You're a bit bright. But actually, you know, that's not bad.
I'm getting cold now. I think we should close the window.
Okay.
Thanks.
Let me finish my drink.
I know, but I just got some chills that are tearing me up right now.
Okay. This house is very cold.
Well, when the window's open, the draft goes right through there. It'll warm up real quick. You should close that.
Okay.
So, you're doing good, Alan. Did you get enough to eat? Because you can have some of this food if you want to buy it. Because I will eat it, but if you'd like a bite or something, you're welcome to. Take a bite.
No, I think I'm fine. I gotta make the turkey, remember? So I gotta
I know,
start
but that's
the
going to
turkey.
take like all day or something.
No, it's not. I gotta just put it in the oven. Then I can have time to shoot the stuff in there.
I'm just saying turkeys take a long time to cook, so it's
Okay.
a long time before it's ready.
Yeah. So let me just see what I got going in there
Okay,
for a
you can
minute,
do what you need to do.
and then
Yes, I will
the
wait.
camera's rolling, so we can have a little conversation.
Oh, it's rolling? Oh.
It's been rolling for a couple minutes.
Casey, you getting all that in there?
Hi. I guess this is my time to talk to you. I'm here with my little dog, Monkey, and we're having a wonderful day. Come here, Monk. Give me a kiss. Come here. Come on. Monk. Come here. Come here. You give me kisses? Oh, good boy. Okay. Having a little bit of a relaxing time. It's been a very busy day, and I'm hoping that we could share a little bit about what's going on. Mr. Alan Citizen Kane is joining the class action lawsuit that I am representing single-handedly as the pro person who is the lawyer and the defendant. In the original infraction case, which I was convicted of, it was actually an original charge of a misdemeanor, and it was dropped down to an infraction, which allowed them to conveniently prosecute me at the level of a misdemeanor, and yet only allowed me the rights of somebody at the level of an infraction. Now what this means essentially is that I was not given a jury trial, I was not given a public defender, and I was not given an impartial judge. The judge decided to find me in contempt of court, and solely on his decision, without any real evidence at all, including probable cause of the original arrest. They have been harassing me for a long time. And in this lawsuit, we are substantiating things that have happened just in the last few years. Now, because usually the statute of limitations on what they hold on any given charge is around 5 years, that's pretty much the maximum amount of time that you can do anything. It's usually a good idea to have original charges that you're claiming within 1 year after any given event. But because of a very specific element, and you just pretty much need to remember the words in the furtherance of justice, then you can push issues in the appellate division, which is really what they call the appeal, is the judicial review that is referred to in our state and federal constitutions. And so what you need to just keep in mind is that there's a number of, in our case, a number of constitutional violations which fall under the auspice of the federal government. But because the states are bound to that, we have both a state and federal collective governance over the people, that they both are responsible for different things. The federal government is responsible for making sure that our constitutional rights are not violated. Now, because we have a federal constitution and we have a state constitution, the state is also required to guarantee these specific constitutional guarantees. Now, I'm going to go over what they are. What they would be is the right to free speech, the right to religion, your right to practice your religion, the right to having coastal access, the right to freedom of movement, freedom from search and seizure, freedom from undue harassment, freedom from discrimination under the American Disabilities Act. And as I explained to you, the entire infraction and misdemeanor issue, which is actually falling under the state auspice. And that is because of California's decision to include the infraction into their judicial system. Now, when I'm just going to go ahead and go over the pardon me with this tooth missing, I might lisp a little bit. It isn't exactly my favorite part of my appearance right now, but you'll understand. It's better than being dead. And because I'm familiar with a friend of a friend who at 19 is dead because of the infection in her mouth, that I feel quite grateful to be sitting here, toothless and wonderful. So if you just listen for a minute on the basics of the system that we have as a government here in the United States and within the state of California, which happens to be a republic, by the way. Now, people usually think of us as being a federal system, and the federal system is something that most people pretty much cling to as being a little bit of a federal issue, and then we have the republic, which really which puts us into more of the state's issue, or in other words, the controls of each of these auspices. And this is pretty much the jurisdictions that we would agree to. But there are elements to where our governance was changed in the late 1800s, and I won't go over that in detail right now, but that the things just essentially things that we were tricked and duped into situations to where we're not really given the rights that we've always thought we had. Because, we could call ourselves the sheeple, or we could call ourselves the cattle, or the cows, because as we just kind of move along, we find ourselves swept up in the waves of, we'll call it the world of reality, which is different from the real world, in my opinion. It's more like reality television. And so, let me go back to this judicial system. Okay, now we have three parts of our government. Now, this is not something that you probably heard the first time, so don't think that I'm calling you stupid. Just bear with me. The three parts essentially are the executive, and that it refers to the president. Now, because the president does have veto orders, he is a separate, and they are a separate administration from the other parts of the government. Then there is a certain level of where the president does have a certain amount of free reign. Now, the free reign is a little bit precluded to the level of the federal. So, in other words, Obama it's not as easy for him to come in and usurp the rights of the state. As an executive, he does have the right to call a lot of shots. And as a matter of fact, he can call shots that you're not aware of, that will take care of things in a way that you never knew that he had ordered. And that happens every day, in every moment that we live. So just remember that even a signature from the president is done by RoboPin, and that you should not assume that there is any conscious complicit understanding between the president and about anything that goes on. Now, you do have to keep in mind also that because he is signing and essentially under his name, it's not even, well, we're going to say it's his name, but let's just go on with that. Let's just assume that he is legally our president, and yes, I am a birther. That in the situation where he has control, he is supposed to be held responsible for that which he has signed. But because he has all these stop gates between him and responsibility and culpability and proof of complicity, then he is essentially a protected man. And that pretty much goes for everybody in his administration. So let's just skip the executive branch, and let's just assume that if any calls were put out to the president by Ms. Desiri Hawkins regarding our collective lawsuit, that they would not be held. Okay, so let's just move on to the other aspects of the truth of what our legal system allots us. Now, as a single person, our controls are pretty much left up to either being a corporation and being able to lobby with large amounts of money, the individual representatives and senators, which is the Senate, the House of Representatives, and the Senate are the two parts of the congressional system, we'll say. And so we will assume that we really need to lobby those people either individually or from a collective position which has to do with the voice of that representative. Now, that is pretty much the regular person's route. And that is pretty much the only route that the regular person is allotted. Now, there is another route. And that has to do with the judicial system, the legal system. And the only way to have any kind of, the word is standing, but I'm going to go ahead and use a word that we understand a little bit more, and that is responsibility for changing the laws as they have been written. It really, in many ways, solely relies upon the court system in setting precedential cases. So when a case sets a precedent, what happens is that the words in that case, it becomes immortalized and referred to by the case name. Sometimes it has a nickname, and I'm going to go ahead and give you a nickname right now, and one of them that's coming up right now is the results for this lawsuit called Desert Rain, or I call it Desert Train. Well, I got thrown off the desert train, and so I've got a new train, because my name is Desi, or Desiri Hawkins. This is called the Desi Train. And so the Desi Train has a couple of different names. Now, this is a class action lawsuit, and we are giving it a nickname. And it's not the Desi Train. It's called Rolling Cloud. Now, there's many reasons why. But first of all, I'll just go ahead and give credence to that name to Mr. William Blake. It's been a couple hundred years now since he's been dead, but I'm happy to give credence to this man. So Rolling Cloud is the representative name of what I'm calling is the Venice oppressed. Now, in order to fundraise, advertise, and in any other way say that to educate the populace, I have devised a system, and that system is kind of along the lines of First Amendment speech, self-expression, and Occupy style, and Burning Man style. All of these things are going into this element of what is going to be presented as a street play. Now, this style of street play is called Theater of the Oppressed. I did not create the Theater of the Oppressed. But I am the founder, creator, director, writer, costumer, everything for Rolling Cloud. Now, Rolling Cloud has its own momentum. So don't get me wrong when I'm telling you that there is a momentum behind the cloud. not of me. Now, I would go ahead and tell you that the presentation of this play is going to be on Thursday, December 6th. No, 5th, pardon me. Thursday, December 5th of 2013. Now, this is a very important day because this is the day that they're supposed to be announcing. Of course, I don't know what will happen, but we're assuming we'll be announcing the decision that has already been made in the desert train versus the city of Los Angeles. Now, as I previously told you, I was thrown off the desert train. Now, what this means is that out of the 6 plaintiffs that are on the case, and I could go into details on each individual that is included in the lawsuit, which I will not do. I will simply say that myself and myself and I, and a number of others were not put on the lawsuit or were taken off. And in this case, that is my job to take it on those whose voices are not being heard. Now, just let me simply explain to you whom has not heard us. Who has not heard us? To whom am I referring? And I would just call Miss Oprah herself, one of them. I would call Ms. Carol Sobel, one of them. I would call the Los Angeles Legal Aid Foundation, one of them. I would call St. Joseph's Charity and United Way Catholic Charity, one of them. I would call PATH, People Assisting the Homeless, one of them. I would call the mayor, Villalaigosa. I would call the current mayor, as there is no changes. I would call the chiefs in the last few years, present and past, part of the culpability of this accusations and in complaint and in lawsuits that will be forthcoming. And there's many, many others. Sergeant Skinner of the Pacific Pacific Division of the Los Angeles Police Department. And there's a number of other people who are complicit, especially the Homeless Task Force. Now, this is a name that we pretty much sum up for their little bit Venice unit that they have created, that was created a number of years ago, that specifically and viciously have continuously targeted me. And people get a little bit confused because they don't quite understand what has gone on. And what people need to just pretty much understand is that the more apropos question is what hasn't gone on. In this case, I'll give you areas of violations. There is the targeting, the placing upon a listing that is essentially directly targeted. There is the prioritizing upon an individual who squeaks a lot to the tune of devastating the lives of others. The priority of that, which is a violation of what you call your right to equal protection. And that's a constitutional right. There's also a right to fair trials, and included in the fair trial is the right to a helpful attorney. And just so you understand, I am the 7th legal counsel that has worked at least on my cases in the last few years, and I am the only one who has really benefited the case. Might helped me in a way. I mean, helped me in truth, in the end, in summation. And so it is difficult for people to understand all the things that have happened to me, so I'll try to give you a little bit more of an understanding. So there's the illegal targeting, the search and seizure. Now the seizure includes, first of all, searching. Let me just give an idea. That's like if somebody just kind of, let me give you an idea. You're walking out of your house, you turn around to lock your door, and suddenly you're grabbed by an authority. And you're handcuffed, and somebody starts screaming and spitting accusations at you, essentially manhandling you to the point of where you're in tears. And then they take your service animals from you, which is kind of equatable to taking your children and throwing them in jail where they are abused, and then taking you and putting you into a very dangerous place and abandoning you there and allowing many things to happen to you where you're sexually molested, where you are treated, you're physically held in. All these things that have happened to me. So really, what it is, I'm speaking first person, but I'm telling you that this is what it would be like for you, so that you can understand from your perspective what it would be like. And then taking you in your house, which you had left it, let's say it was in, say, West LA, is suddenly picked up and moved to the valley, to where you don't even have an ability to get from the dangerous part of town, that South Central, that you've been placed in, up to the valley, nor are you really allotted your use of your phone or phone calls or things that would be really reasonable. So all of these things put you in a situation where you and I can imagine. It's difficult. So, and that's not just all they've done. They've done, you know, they've taken me, they've taken my service animal because I was crying for my service animal. They said that I was somehow an endangerment to myself. And so therefore, actually the reason they changed a lot. You suddenly are in danger to others and yourself, and they, you know, they'll claim whatever is convenient usually. But, and then you're kind of like strapped down. And then when you're taken to the hospital, the doctor makes sure that you're stabbed with a needle and injected with chemicals that make your tongue kind of, lay across the side of your mouth before they'll even talk to you. And by this point, you're not able to say your name, and so it makes it real easy on them, so they don't have to say that you said anything. They can just say, So this is the kind of things that go on, and then by then, you're exposed to a number of different situations which, needless to say, leave you in a post-traumatic state. So, when this happens to you enough, on a consistent basis enough, it's kind of like putting an animal in a cage and shocking it to the point of where it becomes maddened and vicious. And so it's a great deal of mental strength in order to keep sanity regarding the processes that I go through. Hi.
It looks pretty good.
Okay, I'm gonna cut. Okay, so let me get this straight. You're going to start a new, is it going to be a nonprofit? What is it? What is it called?
Rolling Cloud. It's an occupied rolling cloud. It's a rolling cloud occupied. It's
Whatever.
It's a 99% kind of a thing. To me, it's like there's no real difference between the 99% and the word occupied. So I consider it, the same kind of thing. In this case, I've got a lot of people that I'm representing. These actually are more specific to the Venice oppressed, but because I'm ultimately taking my standing in the lawsuits onto a level where I'm bringing a more fair constitutional application of the law and change these to the law itself, statutory. That's my request, my causes of action that I'm trying to create. Create these investigatory commissions, that I be able to create statutory changes, and that I have restraining orders against the police and these kinds of things. Now, the law is actually written that if a law is at any time shown to be unconstitutional, that when the law is rewritten, it really is supposed to be rewritten so tightly that they are not allowed to go out of the bounds again. And my imagining is that in the Desert Rain versus the City of Los Angeles lawsuit, which they're going to announce, is most likely going to show the unconstitutionality of Los Angeles Municipal Code 85.02. Now this specific one, because of the last situation where they had at the Jones settlement, which it happened to do with
And what is
Levon.
what exactly is the Jones settlement?
Okay, so let me explain this to people, okay, because they are not familiar with this. It's a good question.
Some of them are, but yes.
Okay,
Let's be tell them.
no, this is a very important question, and I really need to go over this, so I was going to try to do that. So we have a lawsuit. It's called Levon, and this is spelled L-A-V-A-N. You just kind of think of it like law being Los Angeles, and then V-A-N being the Vans, okay, Levans. Okay, but it's Levon. So here we have Levon versus the City of Los Angeles. Now, during this lawsuit, what happened was at the end there were different plaintiffs, and they were essentially charging that they were being harassed on the streets of Los Angeles. This is not in the vehicles per se. The LAMC 85.02 is the one who refers to that. This is another law that they were challenging. Now, in the Levon lawsuit, what happened was they came up with what's called the Jones settlement. Now the Jones settlement is very specific, and it's much more well known than the word Levon. The Jones settlement refers to, and you kind of think, keeping up with the Joneses. These are the kinds of like jonesing Joneses we're talking. Okay, so the Jones settlement is the type of lawsuit that you need to just see as a curbing, once again, of the police powers. And what this did is rather than allow the police to harass the homeless 24 hours a day, they gave the homeless a break a little bit at night. And what they did is they said between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. Now, if you're at 6:01 past this point and you're sitting there sleeping and you got your stuff blocking the sidewalk, you're in violation. So what this does is this is a settlement which forced the government to create some sort of a compassion for the homeless and say, please allow us to not be treated with this inhumane, cruel punishment by never being able to lay our heads.
And they said that you can lay on, as long as you're not blocking traffic, foot traffic or car traffic, right? You can lay on the sidewalk or someplace like that, right?
Well, there are actually a little bit more considerations. You really should.
I know, but isn't that the basic?
Yeah, but you really should be, like, let's say about 8 feet from another driveway.
Yeah, I understand that.
So things like that.
We're just trying to help them understand.
I'm trying to help them too.
I know. We help them understand the basics first, and then cover the details. You know what I'm saying? Because some people don't know what the Jones lawsuit is, especially if they haven't, been either on either side of that conflict.
That is why I'm explaining it. Right.
There were the stakeholders. Basically the property owners of Venice that just have recently moved in and started making a little bit of money, and they're pushing out all the homeless. I understand that.
Okay, so what Alan's pointing out right now is what's referred to as gentrification.
Yes.
Now, you think of the word as gentrification, you think of it like gentlemanly. Now, this is the kind of association that we are associating it with.
Yes.
And what this means...
NIMBYs. It's the
yes,
NIMBY movement.
Well, NIMBY refers to not in my backyard.
Yes.
Okay, so what this refers to is like, some people will say Palestine versus Israel kind of an idea, or they might be some sort of other analogy.
I think they have that familiarization with gentrification, but like, what is the other? You said there was a second part to this lawsuit, right? Because I think you're going to cover the ones that cover the property.
Now, are we talking about the Jones lawsuit?
No, because I think you covered everything in the Jones lawsuit.
No, I
the
have
details?
not. There's so many things I have not.
Okay. So
Alan,
let's go through that. Let's finish the details of the Jones thing.
Alan.
Yes.
I'm going to.
I understand that. Okay.
If you're quiet, I will.
Okay.
Thank you, Alan. Okay, so during the Jones settlement, what was agreed on is that the people were given a certain break. Now, what this entitles an individual is to sleep on the sidewalk at night. But it still creates a situation where you can't sleep in your vehicle at night. So, for instance, the article that was written about Darlene Knoll and I
that's a different thing they're using, right?
If you be quiet, I will.
But you didn't mention it's a different ordinance, the sleeping in the car, right?
Okay, I have already mentioned that the Los Angeles Municipal Code 85.02 is the one that refers to being in your vehicle.
Yes,
and that I have another code that was referring to the one that was being challenged in the Levon versus the City of Los Angeles lawsuit where the Jones settlement came from. Now, did you have another question? Because I really want to continue talking and answering these questions without you answering.
I understand that, but okay. Let me cut for a second.
I'm doing what I want to do. I have instincts. I told you. My guide keeps me online. If my guide tells me to look there, I will. If my guide tells me to look there, I will. My guide tells me to look there, I will. If my guide tells me to look right there, I will. If it's here, it's here. I will do what I'm meant to do. Get the fuck out of the way of that. Turn it on and record this because I have no more patience for this.
It's already been rolling.
Okay, good.
So say it.
Okay, so let's just be clear with this, okay? I am telling the story the way it's going to be told. This is the story. Okay, now, the bottom line is Los Angeles has been discriminating against the Venice oppressed, and not just the people in Venice. In all over the city of Los Angeles, they have been pushing back like a sweeper to where all the dirt from years has been bound up. It is all wedged in, all in the mechanisms of the sweeper. Everything is bogged up because right now because of how Los Angeles has been pushing everything back. Now, part of this precedent is in this lawsuit that is right now going to be coming out on December 5th, downtown at 200 South Hill Street in Los Angeles. What is this? This is the courthouse. This is where we all go to deal with the situations of the legalities in Los Angeles. We're asking you guys to show up here all day. It's going to be an occupied kind of event. In the morning, we're going to have the 99% be able to join in the play that's going to be going on in the afternoon. From 12 to 1 o'clock, we're having a situation where we can sit and break bread together as a community and wholly breathe together. Now, we're having a time after the street play that's called Stop the Blame, for people to have a free speech sign-up time. The sign-ups are going to begin in the morning. So if you want to sign up for the free speech time and want to be part of our event after, then you're going to have to get there in the morning, are you? Now, this is Desiri Hawkins. What am I? I am not just the person who's going to be leading this class action lawsuit, but I'm also the one who's sponsoring this love event. Now, this love event is non-violent. This event is not about thrash and burn, make any kind of mess at all. It's a leave no trace, have respect, have fun, create and learn a whole lot kind of event. And I'm coming to show up to give people props, ideas, and a baseline of a play that is going to hit them so deep that they will never think the same about themselves, anyone, or the world. So this is a situation for everybody to come and have a real experience, and not just a reality one. It's time you start having a real experience, and this is the start. This is what I'm calling the first annual Free Speech Self-Expression Festival at our beloved courthouse, 200 South Hill Street, on December 5th. Now we're planning on the next day, which would be the 6th, is the Friday. Alan and I are going to go ahead and file our lawsuit, and this is the Desert Rain versus the City of Los Angeles. No, not the Desert Rain. This is that's the one that's going to be announced the day before. This is going to be the Rolling Cloud versus the City of Los Angeles lawsuit. Now, this is the same thing as Desiri Hawkins versus the City of Los Angeles. This is the same thing as Alan C. or Citizen Kane versus the City of Los Angeles. This is the same thing as Gary Gallery versus the City of Los Angeles. This is the same as Darlene Knoll, that's Knoll, versus the City of Los Angeles. This is the same as Charles Mahoney and Terry Hendrickson and Barbara Bo Peck. Barbara Bo Peep? No, Barbara Bo Peck. Yes, this is the event that you want to come to, because this is just the beginning. We have a class action lawsuit that's going to be charging conspiracy, corrupt organization, that's racketeering RICO laws, against these culprits here in Los Angeles that have targeted and tortured a mass of people. Now, do I look angry? Do I look happy? You're right. I am both. Why am I angry? I'm angry because I've been dealing with a decade of oppression. Why am I feeling so hopeful and happy? Well, besides just choosing to be hopeful and happy, it's because I'm doing what I feel and what others would agree is what God put me here to do. And that is to give birth to the truth of our souls and to be able to speak the words for those who are unable, unwilling, uneducated, whatever. They're not able or unwilling to speak to you. So, you could call me brave, or you could call me stupid, or you could call me enslaved, but I would consider myself occupied by myself, and I'm okay with that. So what I'm asking you to do is actually join in this occasion. This is an occasion that's going to be monumental. It's a situation where we're going to take all these precedent lawsuits where we establish how it's unfair to be able to sleep on the sidewalk and not within the warmth of your car. How this is cruel and an unusual punishment. How it is against a reasonable due process of an equal application of the laws to preclude a homeless person from going to the food bank because they don't have an address. Now, I don't know about you, but the injustices that are perpetrated against the homeless are worse than what Jesus would ever have accepted. And I'm not really ready to accept it either. So, that's my short pitch. And I'm happy to give you more information. You're welcome to join the community, hear more about the lawsuit, and come to the event and actually hear about the wonderful suggestions I have for the characters that you can come dressed up as by just simply emailing me, Desiri at yahoo.com. Now, how you spell that name is Desiri. Now, it's like the word desire, but on the end of it's not an I, but an E, but it's an I. So it's Desiri at yahoo.com. It's not a difficult one to remember, so just put it in there.
So I'm tighter, so you don't have to move around so much. Okay? Just stay right there. And down. Let me get settled here, comfortable. So, wherever you want to start, whether you want to just cover that the
Oh, you've got it on now?
Yeah, it's is it?
Oh, okay.
It's rolling.
Sure.
And
I
so,
just wanted
yeah.
to quickly go over just a couple of things. Now, there's another lawsuit that was set a little bit of precedent here in Los Angeles. Now, this lawsuit was led by Carol Sobel, who we are grateful to for her efforts in this. And it specifically helped protect a few of the Los Angeles homeless that had to deal with a situation where they had lost their belongings. Now, this actually happened to where they had their belongings on the side of the road and they had rolled a garbage truck down the middle of the road and they just threw all their belongings in the garbage truck and they just made off with them. Well, see, you have to actually remember that if everything's on your back, well, your inventory list is probably on your back as well. So what happened is that they've just taken everything as well as your inventory list, and you can't even prove what you had in your backpack, and so therefore they have everything, they're holding all the evidence. Well, these kinds of situations happen quite often to people because of what the government does, not necessarily because what they haven't prepared, but rather because what was actually perpetrated against them. And so in this case, what happened is that these people they won the case. And it has forced the city to create some changes to their policy. And this is what we're talking about, statutory changes. And that means that they must abide by certain bylines. And, often they still get away with a lot of things. So you have to remember that just because a law has changed, it doesn't mean that things are going to actually change. But we'll just assume that things are better. And here we have a situation where now they're not really supposed to be taking those things, and if they do take those things, that they can't just in any way destroy those items. for a certain set period of time, at least 30 days. And so and what you have to remember is there's nothing written in there that says that they get charged during that period. Now see, the reason why this is applicable to the case that I'm discussing, my case, which is the Rolling Cloud case. And the other one, I don't recall the name of the lawsuit that Carol Sobel had filed that they won, that allowed them to protect the people from the loss of their belongings. Now, so this is 3 lawsuits we've talked about so far. The Levon versus the City of Los Angeles, and that sub agreement, which we're calling the Jones Settlement, which protected the homeless from being persecuted and not being able to sleep at night along the streets. And then the second situation here, what I've just explained, of where their belongings were taken. So how these things are associated with the lawsuits that I'm talking about, which is being able to rest in a vehicle and being able to have a vehicle and being able to use that vehicle as it was made.
Eminent domain, it's called.
As your eminent domain. Thank you. And that means you're the eminence and it's your domain. So anyway, this is fairly self-explanatory, but we're pretending that you're stupid and stuff like that. But anyway, no we're not. Anyway, bear with me here. So what this does is it shows the inequality or the constitutional violation of our right to equal protection, or in other words, equal application of the law. So in other words, if somebody who's homeless on the street, they get to be able to rest on the sidewalk, but I'm not allowed to have any time to pull over and rest. Well, this wouldn't be really very fair now, would it? Now, wouldn't it be also seem to be a little bit unfair that a homeless person has been allotted a right to be able to have their belongings not taken from them, and yet somebody like me can just come, they can just come up, they can arrest me, they can take all my belongings, and they can charge me so much money that I'm never able to receive my eminent domain again. So this, you can understand, would create a situation where that right to equal protection is being violated. So this is just a general kind of a summation of where you can understand my legal arguments that would be placed before the judge. And once again, part of our lawsuit is that we have not been given any help at all. And I mean from I'm calling one of the conspirators, one of the corruptors within the organization, Mr. Bill Rosendahl, who is the council representative for the 11th District and City of Los Angeles. And this is the Los Angeles area, this is the area of Los Angeles that I'm talking about, specifically being the Venice Press. Now, we're talking about all of Los Angeles, but I am also talking specifically about Venice. So right now I'm talking specifically about Venice when I'm talking about this representative, Bill Rosendahl. Now we have a very specific video that Darlene and I put together, which was taped by Ms. Barbara Bopek, which has just been made public. So even Mr. Alan Citizen Kane has not been able to see this before. But after you see this, you'll see I have shorter hair. You'll see this was taken 3 years ago. I might look a little bit different. My hair might look a little darker, a little whatever. What you might notice is that the right side of my face, which was the side of the face that it was shot at, was swollen. Now what you might not be aware of is that my face was actually infected with a bone infection at the time, and that I actually almost died from it. Now that is all an aside from what it is that really actually transpired in the video. But what transpires in the video is several things. First of all, I'll just kind of give you an understanding of it. So just call this the Bill Rosendahl video of, what's the date of that? I have to look that up again.
Oh, which one? Where you spoke at the city Venice neighborhood council?
Well, no, this is another one you've never seen. This is a brand new.
Oh, okay,
now
okay.
This is a private meeting, and I'll tell you who was at this meeting. There was Bill Rosendahl. There was his female assistant. There was Arturo Pena, who's considered a, quote, field deputy of the city. Now, what that means is them three against us three. Now, us three was Darlene Knoll, and she's the one who begins the video speaking. She's across the table. And then there's also myself, and then Desiri Hawkins, and then there's Barbara Bopek, who's actually taking the video. So those are the two triads that are going on. Now in this case, Darlene Peck starts out in the video, and she's talking about drip, 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 and what she's talking about is how, at the time, we were dealing with sabotaging that was going on that was specifically geared towards making us look like we were creating dumping and waste in the area. Now this was something that was very specifically targeted against us to create, because the Coastal Commission had specifically said, unless we see this happening, we won't be doing any changes. And so this was, you could see, this was part of their game plan, that they had to create some sort of a problem in that area. So Darlene was and we started to discuss with the council member Bill about the situation about how this dumping was going on, and it wasn't from us, and how it was sabotage and who was actually perpetrating it. So this is what happens at the beginning of the video. If it starts to come in and you're not quite sure where it starts, that's what's going on. Now Darlene kind of goes over what it is that's going on with her in the case, and I ask her to pretty much wait so that I can speak for myself when I get to speak. Now I don't start speaking until about 10.5 minutes in the video. Now the video, if I recall, is like 36 minutes long or something, so it's a fairly extensive video. Now during this time there are several things that transpire that seem to be like almost like gut-grabbing turn changers in a case, where you're like, if you're a lawyer, you want to be able to take these points and just shove them in front of a judge and just say, look at this. Okay. Now these two things are when Bill Rosendahl turns to his field deputy, and now this is the thing that you have to understand, because it was his program, his idea to create this, quote, streets to homes program, which really was nothing but a bait and what we call a bait and stick program, or a bait and switch program, where we were baited by the program. We were identified individually and collectively and personally because I was creating these people with movable homes meetings. Now I felt that these meetings were necessary because we were a separate group of people that our voices were not getting heard, and we needed to deal with our issues collectively and talk about our issues. And so having a meeting for people with movable homes or have flexible kind of lifestyles was an imperative. So I started creating these these meetings, and these meetings created a movement. I did this with Peggy Lee Kennedy, and Peggy Lee Kennedy has since actually kind of moved away from the movement, and so
she lost her office. That's why.
Correct. I'm not gonna explain her reasonings for what it is that she's doing right now.
We'll try to get a hold of her.
But I simply am explaining to you that when I'm speaking to you, I'm speaking to you from my perspective and not from hers, and that when I'm discussing people with movable homes, that we have two different experiences, and that what she's doing now.
She's one of us.
Okay, but what she's doing right now is not anything that I'm associated with, we'll say. So, as of right now, I'm working on this case and representing us by ourselves, and I'm trying to get people to spread the word about what it is that I'm doing, so that they can let other people know who might be interested in joining our class action lawsuit. Now, if you've been violated, harassed by the police for any of these above reasons, for Los Angeles is LA Municipal Code 8502, which is the living on the city streets on an either overnight or day-to-day basis. Using it as your living quarters. Now that it's not established whether that means sleeping, eating, or whatever, nothing is established. So this puts it in the realm of unconstitutionality, because it's both vague and broad. Now if it was vague, it would be unconstitutional. If it was broad, it would be unconstitutional, but it's both vague and broad. So we're talking doubly unconstitutional. This is expected to be changed on December 5th, when they announce the new ruling from the desert rain. Now, whatever parameters they have changed the law to be in now, whatever tightened form it may be in now, is not good enough for me. I can tell you right now that my lawsuit will ask for statutory changes that will carve it even closer. And this is what I'm asking for. I'm asking for changes that have to do with the way of the Los Angeles County deals with approaching someone in their vehicle, and is specifically how they apply what they call a A Terry stop, you need to remember those words, a Terry stop to a motorhome owner. Now, a Terry stop is supposed to be a brief encounter and say an hour and a half long visit that Mr. Alan Citizen Kane here photographed that I experienced when they stole my vehicle and I got thrown in. Again, this is a difference. There's so many of these. But anyway, what I'm saying to you is that these are not Terry stops. Okay, we're talking reamings. So, once you've been reamed enough, pride is goneth. How about that? So, anyway, I'm going to try to sum up this. We have a lawsuit. We have a lot of things that we can say that we want to change. One of the things that we want to change is how the law is applied to those who are disabled. Now, if you have a service animal that is supposed to be considered medical equipment, that's kind of like saying, here, you're blind, you can go into the jail, but we're going to take away your dog. And you can't have that seeing eye dog. And so if you like crack your head open or something because you couldn't make it to the toilet very well, that's okay. So that's kind of what they're saying. Now, these are things that are considered to be discriminatory, and that's how things get changed, is that we force them to have protocols that they must follow when they are faced with somebody with a service dog. So these are the kinds of things we're going to change. Then also, and the protocols in how to handle when your case gets dropped from a misdemeanor to an infraction are also protocols that I'm asking have changed. Now, there's also an element which isn't going to be apparent at first, but will become more and more apparent as I move up my cases to the federal level. And this has to do with our right to not being surveilled or spied upon. This is our right to essentially having our right to have privacy. This is about asking for our rights to have a real life again. What a concept. Now, these are the words that you have to find, though. You have to reach out there and go, what words do I want? And I want what? Respect. What does respect look like? No, it's not just about respect. It's about following a certain protocol. That means the questions that you can be asked. So this is what I'm asking. Man comes up to woman in motorhome, says, are you living in motorhome? Woman says, no. Man says, do you know how long you can stay here? Do you know the laws regarding how long you can stay here? And I said, yes. 72-hour rules? Yes. 2-hour rules? Oh, I'm exempt from that with my disabled placard. Okay. Bye-bye. That's all they can do. So, this is what I'm asking for. Specific questions only. Now, can they come up and say, gosh, I smell marijuana now that I've come up here. Are you smoking marijuana? The answer is, you just broke the law because you just jumped a gun. That is illegal, and that's what they've done to me. When they ask me to move my vehicle, or tell me and make me move my vehicle, they have just broken the law. When they have harassed me and not had just a Terry stop, they have broken the law. When they have taken my service animals, they have broken the law. When they have dropped from a misdemeanor to an infraction, they have broken the law. When they have harassed and oppressed an entire group of people, they have broken constitutional laws. Now, do some of these laws entail the rights of an American Indian? The answer is yes. And what am I referring to as I move up the ladder that I'm going to be calling more and more and more attention to? The answer is the rights of the American Indian, the rights of a woman, and the rights to our sovereignty as a human being, not as an American citizen? Yes. Now you understand what I'm doing. So what I'm asking you to do is join our community, join our play, become an occupier for at least a day, and have the time of your life.
I'm gonna cut.